Hello everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to another edition of the Flash Season 9 review series. And today I'm going to be talking about Episode 10, A New World, Part 1, Reunions, which I have just finished watching. And my goodness, this episode was absolutely fantastic. I loved it. And in a way, it felt like I got my favourite show back. That's how good this episode was. It was back to the old days of when The Flash was one of the best shows on TV, and certainly one of the best shows in the Arrowverse. All I've got to say is, my God, I have missed you so much. This was absolutely brilliant. I loved every second of this episode. And for those of you who know already, this is part one of a four-part series finale. And we are off to an epic start already. And the best part about it, we are only just getting warmed up. Wow, plenty to talk about here, plenty to get your teeth into. My goodness, where do we start? First of all, I just want to say it is great to have Matt Lesher back as the Reverse Flash. All due respect to Tom Cavanagh, who has done a fantastic job as the Reverse Flash / Eobard form, but I've been waiting to see Matt Lesher back as the real Eobard form, the original Reverse Flash. And, you know, it's hard to believe that in the entire show's run, Matt Lesher has only been in the show, I think, 8 times now. I think it's about 8 times he's appeared in the show. And, you know, as I said already, all due respect to Tom Cavanagh, who's done a tremendous job as the Reverse Flash, and he's really brought that level of evil and darkness to the character. It's a real breath of fresh air to bring Matt Lesher back. And, you know, with the show already coming to its end, you know, as I mentioned at the beginning, it's going to be a 4-part series finale. You know, it's only fitting to bring the original actor to play the Reverse Flash one more time. And, you know, I wouldn't really want to see Tom Cavanagh again because we've really milked that cow bone dry. You know, it's got stale. As much as I love the guy, I've gone on record to say many times over, he could very well be the best actor in the entire Arrowverse period. And I still stand by that. Have nothing but true love and respect for the man. But I've been wanting to see the original Reverse Flash for a very long time now. And I wasn't entirely sure if we was going to get that, especially as we're down to 3 episodes now of the show. And just to see the original Reverse Flash with his real face back at his evil best, taunting and trolling Barry Allen, it was just excellent. It's made for great TV. And, you know, it's interesting to know that unlike the Harrison Wells version of the Reverse Flash, we've not really seen a whole lot of the original Eobard Thawne and Barry Allen. As I mentioned, you know, the original Eobard Thawne has only appeared in the show a total of 8 times. And whenever they get together, it's fantastic, but we haven't really seen a whole lot of it when you think about it. 8 episodes, 8 appearances, you know, it's not really a lot when you look at the Harrison Wells version of the Reverse Flash, but this episode definitely made up for it. There were lots of nods to the pilot episode, lots of shout outs to the first season, and one thing that really made me so happy to see, and it's something that I've been wanting to see ever since the show started, and the call has been answered, my prayers have been fulfilled. We are going to be finally getting Cobalt Blue. Cobalt Blue was teased in this episode, and from the looks of it, we will be seeing a full appearance of Cobalt Blue sometime before the show ends. So it's possible we could be getting Cobalt Blue in part two, but either way, he's been teased. I'll get to that in a moment, but we are finally getting Cobalt Blue, and I'm so pleased because Cobalt Blue is a guy who I've been wanting to see in the show ever since the show started. I've said that many, many times. You know, anyone who asks me if you could have one Flash character to appear in the show, who would it be? My answer has always been the same, and that's Cobalt Blue, because Cobalt Blue is somebody who I've said in the past is someone I've been wanting to see in the show for a really long time. And, you know, there's a lot of unfinished business there with Eddie Thawne, Iris West, and of course, Barry Allen, and there are some serious scores to settle. Whether or not we are going to see that, but time will tell, really. But if the way this episode ended and what I've been seeing in the trailer, I think we could be getting that, or maybe part of that. But time will tell, really. But this episode, easily a 9 out of 10. This episode was absolutely fantastic. And finally, Barry Allen is back as the lead main character of his show. No more taking a back seat. Barry Allen is back, and this is what we've been wanting to see for a long time now. And before we get rolling here, I think with season 9, if we had cut this season up, I think really 13 episodes was a bit long, especially with the way this whole season has played out. I think really what they should have done is maybe gone for a much shorter season. Maybe, I don't know, 5 episodes or 6 episodes perhaps, because, you know, the rest of the episodes were not really that great. I mean, yeah, there was a couple that weren't too bad, but by and large, a lot of the episodes for season 9 weren't really that good. So maybe they would have been better off going with 5 or 6 and just maybe extending the length of them, in my opinion. That's just what I think. I think maybe season 9 could have benefited more from being a much shorter season with maybe 5 or 6 episodes as opposed to 13. But it is what it is. So, anyway, as always, I am going to give a quick recap on what's happened so far. And then after that, we are going to get straight into the first part of the series finale of the show, and that is episode 10. So, as we saw previously in episode 9, we saw the return of Ramsey Rosso, aka Bloodwork, but we also saw the return of Wally West, John Diggle, and Oliver Queen, aka the Green Arrow. So we see Wally West be controlled and corrupted by Bloodwork, and he ends up murdering Barry Allen. And Barry Allen wakes up back in Lian, and we see Oliver Queen, who we all remember became the Spectre after he sacrificed himself the first time round. And then after that, he sacrificed himself a second time to essentially restart the multiverse. And we got to see Oliver Queen suit up as the Green Arrow one more time. And we got to see the Flash and Green Arrow fight side by side one more time. And then we got to see Diggle in the mix. And we got to see Kid Flash in the mix. And we saw all of them working together to take down Bloodwork once and for all. And it was a fitting moment to have Oliver Queen back for the final season of The Flash. And we saw at the end, Oliver and Barry had one final drink together, and we got to see Oliver and Diggle have one final goodbye. So it was very fitting to have Green Arrow back for the final season of The Flash. So, with that all said, let's not waste any more time. Let's get straight into it. Let's talk about episode 10, A New World, Part 1, Reunions. So this episode opens up with blue roses and someone getting ready for the day at the West House, but it's not Joe West. It's Dr. Gilmore, who works at Mercury Labs, who looks exactly like Eddie Thorne. We then see at Star Labs, Chester has Allegra try on a super suit, but she feels it's a bit too much to say the least, and she's not a fan of it. She tells him that she really wants to be herself and feel comfortable doing it. We then see out of town Cecile is at home with Joe, who has cooked her a massive feast for her, and Joe tries to convince her to stay a little longer and just go in late on Monday. At Keone's apartment, which was previously Caitlin's and Frost's, she comes home to journal in letter form to both of them, which serves to document her growing powers, but she also wishes to talk to Mark. At Barry and Iris's apartment, Barry is speeding around doing some extra baby proofing, and it's revealed that 7 months have passed and Iris is nearly at her due date. We see she gets an alert that she's been nominated for a Pulitzer for her article on the Red Death, but before they can celebrate, Barry is pulled away by a mysterious blue energy. We see Barry ending up in Central City, but it's not the Central City he knows. He's been dragged back to the past, to the year 2000, and it's on a very Pacific day. It's the day that Barry Allen's mother was murdered by the Reverse Flash. Oh boy, here we go. So we see Barry goes to the CCPD looking for Joe West, and it's obvious this is 23 years in the past. He finds Joe and asks him for help, but can't tell him his name due to what could happen with the timeline. He tells him that he's stranded. He asks for help to find Dr. Tina McGee as he needs access to a Pacific database, only just realizing it's 2 years away from being created. Joe reluctantly agrees to help him and asks Barry to trust him, but before Barry can tell him, he realizes what day it is. March 18th, the day his mum dies. Barry goes to his cell phone and calls Professor Stone, but he hangs up on him because he thinks it's a prank. Barry then sees his parents across the street. Before he can cross the street to talk to them, he's hit by a speedster and knocked in the path of ongoing traffic. We see Henry Allen protects him, and Nora calls 911 after noting he looks just like her father. Wow. Barry wakes up in the hospital with Henry treating him. Nora is also there. He tells them his name is Bart. Nice. I like it. They tell him that he's not alone and offer to help him. Nora immediately starts mothering him, and since Bart needs to eat, they decide to take him out for pizza. Meanwhile, we see Joe is investigating the hit and run, and Joe thinks that Bart needs their help. However, as he's investigating, Joe hears his name being growled and then finds a mysterious blue crystal. He picks it up and his eyes weirdly glow blue. Now, this blue crystal, it's obvious that it's supposed to be Cobalt's blue, so Cobalt's blue doesn't officially have his own form yet. So he's taken on the form, I think, of Joe West. So we're basically seeing Joe West mind controlled after picking up the mysterious blue crystal, which was teased back at the end of season 8. At the pizza place, Nora tells Bart that she thinks it's fate that they both met, and both she and Henry comfort him. They offer him a place to stay for the night, but Barry freaks out and says he can't stay. He leaves racing away, and he ends up bumping into the original Eobard Thorne. Enraged, Barry moves in to kill him, and Thorne goads him and tells him to kill him, but Barry doesn't. Barry thinks Thorne brought him here, but Thorne says, "Nope, I did not." And they go to a bar, and Thorne is clearly enjoying this situation as he sips down a pint of beer. He reveals his plan to kill Barry as a child, and he feels he has a pretty good chance since Barry has to either arrest him and have him locked up or kill him. Either way, the timeline will be messed up, and Barry won't do either. Thorne also reveals he orchestrated his accident to cause him pain again and deliberately made sure that his parents were the ones who found him. He also goads Barry into admitting that he's won, something that Barry reluctantly admits, and Eobard Thorne relishes in his victory as he drinks more of his pint of beer. Later, Henry and Nora are worrying over Bart when he shows up back at the hospital. Barry tells them that he always wondered what he'd tell his parents if he had one more day with them, and Nora says that he can tell them, so he does. They show him love and support just like Henry and Nora Allen would. As they leave, Barry hears the weird growling noise call his name. He follows it and finds Joe, who now suddenly knows Barry is stuck in the past. Barry opens up to him but quickly realizes that something is very wrong, and Joe's eyes begin to glow bright blue. Barry realizes this isn't Joe, it's the negative Speed Force, and it wants Barry to pay for what he's done. He wants to kill Barry, and Barry can't fight back because the real Joe West is in there. They fight, or rather Barry tries to avoid fighting, but Barry eventually brings Joe down, only for NSF Joe to attack him. Barry closes his eyes and thinks of Iris and baby Nora, and suddenly a blast of the Speed Force energy hits. It knocks the crystal out of Joe, but it vanishes. Barry speeds away with Joe, putting him back behind the wheel of his police car. Barry races across town and comes face to face with Fawn, telling his hated enemy that he's there to save him. Fawn laughs and thinks it's a joke, but Barry tells him he's sorry for having ruined his life. Fawn isn't having it and races off to do exactly what he set out to do. Things play out in the Allen home exactly as they did, as we saw in the first episode, with Nora Allen being murdered. It dawns on Fawn that this was a fixed point in time. Barry tells him that this night no longer tortures him, as he's had to live with the pain for decades. He finally has peace, having seen his parents one last time, and he's grateful to Eobard for that. Barry is then pulled away by the blue energy. Wow. To go back not only to the first episode of the show, but to that night. Unbelievable. And now we realize that the Barry Allen we saw fighting the Reverse Flash in his parents' home wasn't Barry from another timeline. It was Barry that we know already. So he was stopping the other Barry from going in to save himself being murdered as a child. Unbelievable. What a callback. Doesn't get any better than this. For me, this was the highlight of this episode. We then see in Mercury Labs, Dr. Gilmore is at work when a sudden storm takes out the power. He goes to the window and sees weird red lightning in the sky, which echoes back to the night Barry got his powers when he was struck by lightning. We then see Dr. Gilmore get struck by lightning and hits back on the rack of chemicals in the exact same manner that Barry Allen fell. And we see his whole body crackles with what appears to be either Speed Force or negative Speed Force energy. And then we see him pick up a mysterious classified file on the floor, and he opens it and sees a picture of Eddie Thorne, who looks exactly like Dr. Gilmore. And Dr. Gilmore asks himself, who's Eddie Thorne? And that's how we end episode 10. Overall, this was absolutely fantastic. What a way to kick off this 4-part series finale, going back to the night that Barry Allen's mum was murdered. This was absolutely tremendous. Had this had been the final episode, minus the ending with Dr. Gilmore, I think this would have been the perfect way to end the show. But, we've got 3 more parts to go, but we're off to a tremendous start. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next, because we are 3 episodes away from season 9 wrapping up. And also, we are 3 reviews away from this review series also wrapping up. So it's going to be a hell of a ride. We're off to a great start. Can't wait to see what happens next. So that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What was your thoughts on episode 10? Did you enjoy it? What did you think of Barry and Eobard Thorne going back to the night that Barry's mum was murdered? Do you think that was a great callback? And also, what did you think of Barry seeing his parents one last time? Do you think that was an emotional moment? And also, what did you think of the Cobalt Blue tease we saw with Dr. Gilmore? What's he going to do? What's his plans? What do you think he's going to do regarding Barry and Iris? And why does he look like Eddie Thorne? Could it be something to do with Crisis? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Flash Season 9 review series, where I am going to be talking about episode 11, which is part 2 of the 4-part series finale, A New World, which I am very much looking forward to seeing, especially with the way this entire episode and the ending played out. It's going to be good, it's going to be fantastic, and I can't wait. So until next time, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.